Hey guys, this is Jack the Funk. Today I'm going to be showing you how to set up some fairly professional sounding house drums in Ableton. I'm going to be using standard effects, no VST plugins, just to keep it nice and simple. What we've got here is a simple house beat. And also a little loop to add a bit of spice. And I'm going to be mucking about with these to get a nice punchy sounding sort of rhythm section. Now we're going to start off with the kick. It's already a fairly nice kick drum, but I want to improve the attack to give it a little bit more punch and to get a little bit of the bass out of the way for when a bass line gets added and provides more of the low end. So I'm going to add a compressor to this channel, and I'm going to bring the threshold down a little bit. So as you can see, it's already starting to reduce the gain. But to increase that initial transient, we're going to bring the attack up to about 6 milliseconds maybe. What I'll do is I'll turn this up gradually, and you can see how it reacts to the attack phase. That attack phase basically lets through the signal. So if I set it for 16 milliseconds, if the first 16 milliseconds, it would let through the signal and gradually ramp up the compression. So so as you can see, as I turned that up, the initial transient got a lot more pronounced, but you could hear a sort of roll off in the bass, and that happens when you compress kick drums or bass. What happens is that the loudest part, which is obviously the low end, gets reduced somewhat. So to bring that back up again, we're going to throw in an EQ, put a little rise in the bottom end just to bring some of that bass back in. We're also going to try and get rid of some of the sort of mid-range muddiness. So go ahead and create a large spike here. And hunt around for that sort of unnecessary mid-frequency that sort of sounds a bit jarring. And when you found that, just cut it out. So as you can see there, we've already got a more solid kick drum. Then we're just maybe going to put a little bit of a spike over here, just to bring out the click in the kick drum. Oh, that sounds good. And that's all we're going to do to the kick drum. So we'll move on to the snare. Now a lot of people sort of hit a stumbling block on snares. A good idea is to layer a few sounds on top of one another. I've got one snare sound, another snare sound, and a clap. And all together, we're going to group these channels. Come on. There we are. We're going to group these channels. And already we've got quite a sort of wide sounding snare. But to give it some extra punch, we're going to grab these claps and turn off snap to grid and just pull these. Oh, excuse me. We're going to pull this clap backwards a little bit. Say about so far until you can hear. As you can see, it sort of rolls into the snare now and gives a much beefier sort of sound. You can do the same with this middle. Well, not too much maybe, but see, there we go. We've got a much nicer sound, and we'll do this one. We're going to do this one by hand just so it gives it a little bit more variation. And there we go, already that's sounding a lot chunkier. And then we're going to grab this channel and we're going to compress it all. If you compress the whole group, it helps to bring the sounds together. And also we're going to do the same as what we did with the kick, bring the threshold down. And then throw the attack up until we get a nice snappy snare. We increase the ratio there just to help accentuate that snap. And there you go. Now we're going to chuck in that EQ, same as before, try and weed out some of the unnecessary frequencies. And there we go, we've got a nice sort of sound there. And then just to round it all off, we'll throw a little bit of reverb on there. Now you want to turn your filters off in your reverb. And to keep things quick, we're just going to drop the decay time, drop the dry and wet balance, and then keep turning it up until you can just about hear it. You don't want it too much. And that'll do nicely, nothing too overboard. And that'll do for the snares as well. So we'll move on to the hi-hats. Since we're sticking with a sort of punchy house vibe, we're going to group these two tracks and throw a compressor on them, as before. Same thing, try and accentuate those transients. There we go. And then we're going to throw in the EQ, but this time we're going to roll off all of the bottom end. See, it's starting to kick in there, so we'll roll it back a little bit. And then, once again, hunt around for sounds that are either pleasing or not so pleasing. There's a nice bit there. And then accentuate those high ends as well, maybe use a roll off for that with a high Q setting. And since we don't have any expensive outboard exciter modules or anything, I'm going to show you another little trick. If we duplicate this group, turn the volume down on this new group, but now open one of your loops and select them all, clips, sorry, and knock them up an octave, and do the same on the second track, and that will give you a little bit of high end that you wouldn't get from this group. And maybe we'll add some reverb on these just to bring them out. You know, a low cut. And you can get away with pushing the reverb a little bit more on your hi-hats, as long as it doesn't lose resolution, sort of presence. It's a little too much. And we can put plenty on these high ends to give it some nice shimmer. Like so. And then other than our loop, that's our drum section. Pretty much ironed out. And then you can mix it how you like. For example, here we want to turn our hi-hats down. And now we're going to do some quick work on this loop. Now, as you can see, round about here in the sound. No, come here. Sorry about that. This tom here has too much of a tonal presence, almost musical sound, and we don't want that because that would later interfere with the bass or any melodies you were using. So we're going to take one of these much more sort of unflavoured toms. We're just going to grab it and we're going to hold control and just superimpose it where that noise was, and then just quickly balance it with the others. And as you can hear, that's got rid of the sort of ringing tonal quality. And since it's a fairly simple loop, we'll just get rid of half of it, select the rest, hold down Control D to duplicate. And I'm not going to compress this channel because it's got quite a nice dynamic range that sort of adds to the rhythm. So we're going to leave that as it is. It may need a bit of an EQ, it may not. We'll just have a listen and see how it goes. That's lovely. To be honest, I think that's a done deal. And just with a few simple tricks, you can make your drums sound a lot more professional. So give it a go, and if you like this tutorial, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll see you next time.